So, this video will be different compared to my other videos. I will talk, well, I don't even know how to describe it. And I'm also not sure if my English will even suffice to talk about the things that are on my mind right now, because some of them might go pretty deep into, well, what you could call the fabric of existence. But of course, my talk will be centered around mathematics, but not anymore in some formal, but in some, let's say, existential sense. Right. Well, this video is my first experiment with such things. I don't count inventing video. It's something different now, as you will see. And this video will probably be like really hard to understand because, well, usually when I talk to people about things that are moving me, then they tell me that mostly they tell me that it's things that they can't properly conceive, something like that. Well, not all of the things in this video will be like that, but some of them might go into the matters that uh, I'm dealing with primarily myself. I mean, like matters of existence and life that I'm dealing with primarily myself. So, you know exactly how to start. We'll see about that. Um, well, let me just start. Let me start just somehow, and maybe that's the first moment in this video when I will talk about, well, let's put it like that, funny things. Um, there might be multiple ways, multiple roads on which I could go into this topic and in which I could elaborate on the things are that are on my mind right now. And you see, neither of those ways, even though inside different representations of the topics that I'd like to talk about, could be things that would partially contradict each other. Nonetheless, neither on those ways would be more right or more wrong, meaning that there are multiple ways to present the topics that I'd like to talk about in completely different ways, and each one of them would be valid. On the other hand, if we tried to make some kind of quintessence out of all those contents that I would present you on those different ways, then this quintessence, when put into the words of human language, would again never be the thing that I actually would have to say. So you see, the information that I'd like to convey in this video is dispersed over all those multiple ways of capturing this information, and there is no proper way, or at least that's how I perceive it, there's no proper way to capture the exact essence, not even if I would go on all those ways in my mind to the very end and would summarize what is contained in the one way, in the other way, in the third way, maybe simply because there are infinitely many ways of how I could talk about this topic, and all those ways seem to me as having equal rights in regards to how well, or how, in regards not necessarily to how well you would describe the situation, but in regards to that each one of them would be able to have such aspects in it that the other ways would not convey, or would convey in a different way again, and so that this way with this very aspect that is unique to it would be just as important within the total picture that I'm trying to convey. So you see, it's already something. I don't know if you understood what I tried to uncover here. Uh, I mean, not necessarily because like you have difficulties to understand that, but maybe because I haven't phrased it in proper English. I don't care. So either way, I don't know if you understood that. Okay. Mm, You see, at least in my own inner perception, the things that I will be trying to talk about uh, they can't be fitted into a consistent system. So if my talk becomes too jumpy, or if it becomes logically inconsistent at all, then in my own perception at least, it is due to the things taken all together in their totality being simply not apt to fitting into any system at all. Well, that is in my perception. There might be truth in it. Maybe I'm just bad at articulating myself. I don't know. But that's my perception, anyways. And another issue about that is I'm just having currently that many topics on my mind, and I'm having them on my mind all at once. That I'm just afraid that no matter how long I will talk, and no matter about what I will talk, and no matter how I structure my talk, there will be a multitude of topics that I won't even touch, but that are on my mind and that I would like to touch. Some of them might be even like on the horizon of my mind, and I would like to talk about them nonetheless because I'm kind of feeling this urge to talk about them. Okay, that's a few things. Well, so you can already expect or already anticipate that this talk will be something like, well, let's say a lot more spontaneous than my other videos. It's like I do not exactly know what I should talk about because there is so much. Okay, there is just this thing about my perception of what I believe to be thinking, that it seems to me that the informational wealth that I'm able to capture in my words by transmitting to you the meaning of what I would like be trying to say, that this informational wealth is much less than what actually should be said if I were to properly transfer to you the meaning that I would like to transfer. It's all same topic, I know. I'm repeating myself, but also not. It's different gazes at the structure that I'm trying to describe, to make it understandable how difficult it is to me to fit a talk into any proper frame, at least within my perception. I just cannot do that if it is not a formal talk, like, for example, about mathematics. But also, so in my videos, I'm uh, getting astray really wildly just because I can't help to talk about a lot of structures that I encounter and about structures within structures and so on. It just gets me going, right? And it gets only worse when I'm trying to speak my mind. As you can guess, mathematics is like a formal discipline. There you can't get a straight at every point, at least, because there is some rigid structure, more or less, that is rigid but flexible, but that is keeping you more or less in line, right? But when I am speaking my mind, then it's like there's nothing that is keeping me in line. I could go into every direction as far as I would like, or as far as I feel like it. Right. All right. And as I told you, this talk will be actually about mathematics, or well, mathematics in some sense, not necessarily about the mathematical stuff, but maybe about that too. I don't know yet. So you see, I don't know yet what this talk will exactly be about, exactly because I have too many topics in my mind. Or this, I see that as a reason. That was just an introduction so that you understand how complicated I perceive this issue. Maybe it's the same with all people. I don't know. I don't care if it's unique to me or if it is the same by all people. But what I certainly have a feeling of that somehow people don't talk about it if it is the same by them. I don't know. Either they don't notice that or they don't care that it is like that. But it really gets to me. So I have to talk about that. I have to explain to you what it looks like in order to proceed. So I have to prepare a proper setting where everything is established, at least to the point to which I have gotten that far. Everything is established so that my perception is satisfied, so that I really have established the setting. I have not left out anything. And you can imagine how difficult it is when my perceived informational wealth of many of the thoughts is just too large, again, in my perception, to be conveyed. So there can't really be properly established setting, because I would try to tell you more and more about this same thing, because in my perception there hasn't been enough said, right? So I'm limiting myself kind of artificially. I won't go into detail about that. Okay. But as I told you, this talk is at least supposed to be about maths. So let's get on to it. Well, the thing is, let me start just in one of the possible ways. I already told you that I could start in a completely different way, and you should keep it in mind. Let me start just like this. So recently I started to make this YouTube videos, and it kind of really fulfill me. I don't even care if someone is watching them or not. If one person in all my life, a person like me, would benefit from these videos because they would convey to this person the wealth of the mathematical world, even in the simple things like I would have loved it conveyed to me. Um, at the appropriate time in the past, then I would be already happy. So I'm doing it really for myself. And as I told you, I also don't care like how I'm doing those videos. So yeah, that's one part. Another part, well, one part of me perhaps would like if the videos became popular. On another hand, again, well, not necessarily because videos becoming popular also means that, well, that there will be some kind of crowd, you know. So I actually like the way it is. So, but videos really fulfill me just making them because I get to talk about math and it is kind of in a setting where it might, at least in theory, potentially help a person like me. This is exciting, this is fulfilling, so I don't need anything more, and that's also the driving mechanism behind it. So that's why I don't really care what they look like. The important thing to me is the contents. That is, by the way, a big difference that I believe to notice, that always the only thing that matters to me, or at least the only thing that I want to matter to me, is the contents. I don't care about anything else, how it is put, how it is said. If the contents are completely valid, then it's perfect. It's like in everything in life for me. Yeah, I'm like inputting also those little things because they might support the understanding of the other things of the bigger picture. Or maybe because I'm spontaneously feeling like it. I don't know exactly. Might be truth in both, might be truth in only one of that. Maybe the main reason is completely different. I don't know. So you see, I'm trying to establish the context at every point. And this, of course, becomes really outgrowing in different directions. So the tree always grows and gets different branches, and from branches there are another branches leading somewhere else, and so on. So yeah, making videos itself, because I get to deal with math, is very fulfilling for me. And what I'd like to say about that, I also enjoy this simple stuff. Like in this simple stuff, it seems simple, right? But if you are watching my videos, and you probably have already seen that at some points it's like everyone does it like that, but why do they do it like that? It's like it's there is nothing, no rule saying that, and to notice such little details. On one hand, I have to notice such things. On the other hand, I like enjoy noticing that because it's like it's giving me a gaze behind the curtains. Like when you're noticing such things and you can like see how the structures interrelate exactly. I mean, of course, not just such things standing by alone, but I mean such things in connection to everything else that everyone else also uses and looks at. But uh, of course, it's not about the things that it's not about the fact that others might not notice that they are using something that is not properly established. Yeah, but um, it's about seeing the whole picture. This is just a way how I can describe to you this other part of the picture so that you understand there is this other part that is usually missing. And when you put those two parts together, and when you put everything together, all the pieces, and you really seeing each piece and each interconnection between all pieces, then they give a great melody that, of course, because of the properties of the human consciousness, we can only hear in parts, because human consciousness is just not apt to keeping too many objects with their interrelations within the mental sight at once. It's just not possible. Well, I guess it's not possible. For me, it's not possible. Maybe I'm just too dumb. Also possible, I don't know. But I pretty much believe that it's a general restriction in human brain. We are able to keep abstract, large structures in mind and their uh, working principles, but we are like blurring them out, or we are black boxing parts, or we are taking the bird view, so it's not that we can see all interconnections really at once and all the objects involved. So of course we can only see the picture in parts, but nonetheless it excites me to just kind of know that the picture is complete, and also it gives some insights like from the back door. I don't know if you have seen that already in my videos. We have only done simple stuff that far. I mean basics of university maths. We also had basics of linear maps. That is, in sense of primary abstraction, maybe a little more advanced. But yeah, it's kind of gives you this feeling of being immersed in this world, really, because you interact with those interrelations, because you see feeling of relatance, feeling of being related to something. This feeling comes from dealing with the stuff that constitutes the thing that you want to be related to, and dealing with all that little stuff, it kind of creates by your consciousness a feeling that your consciousness is immersed in this realm, right? This is how it works, kind of, or at least that's a principle that I could see behind it. Again, I could phrase it in different ways that always applies to my words, but this is one way to phrase it, and keep it in mind again that it is just one way. But yeah, there's some truth in this way also, right? And this is of course amazing. And for a long time, actually, as I started studying math, um, I was like overwhelmed. It was really too much for me. I don't know if back then I even would have considered myself intelligent enough for math. But there was another part. So in the beginning, I was struggling really a lot with those things that I now present you that easily. You could say, well, maybe you are not seeing this, but I'm struggling because I'm trying to make it as digestible as possible, mostly because of that. You see, in the beginning, it was a completely different thing. It was like terrain where I could only work through it with very heavy legs, like abnormally heavy, not like other students, or maybe like other students, yes, but it took by me a long time until the legs became a little less heavy. Let's put it like that. And while everyone like would say yes, transition from math before university and math in university is always difficult, but it was like I would think it was abnormally difficult. And for a long time I was convinced like it is me, like it is my own problems, that I'm too dumb in some points. And of course, I'm not saying that for a long time I was convinced. Now I think that I'm not dumb at some points. Of course, I'm dumb at some points, yes. But I also realized that it was my inner attitude towards math. It was like at very at a lot of points I have done things wrong, meaning wrong in sense of the relationship that I built with maths, in sense of efficiency of this relationship in providing me with skills for doing maths. Like there were a lot of things. I don't know if I want to go into the detail, maybe later in this video. Um, I just built a wrong relationship with the subject matter and with especially how I went about it. It was just completely wrong in so many points, in so many points. And I don't mean like superficial points like um I don't know, not doing something or things like that, but I mean internal points and perceptions, how I um what I perceived my what I perceived my perception of math should be. Let's put it like that. Maybe already this construction perception of what perception should be is a little bit funny, but this might be also a part of it. That I even cared about how my perception of math should be. It is like it's not normal, right? No one thinks about such stuff. And I thought that I'm thinking about such stuff, it somehow makes me stronger. It makes me more capable of achieving things. And I was just wrong. It can give me some abilities like thinking about stuff, thinking about how I should think about maths, even in little points, how I should think about my activities in math and things like that. But in the end, I was missing a lot from simplicity of building own relationship to a thing. In this case, to it's called to science or I don't like the word science in this context. To something that one does in your life, because maths is what university student it is as a part does in his life. Yeah, I was missing this simplicity, and I thought kind of in the beginning at least, and maybe also for a long time, I don't know it anymore, that it kind of makes me better than other people, that I abandon simplicity completely, that I don't go for it, not with the intention not to go for simplicity, not at all. The intention was to go for trying to capture everything in my mind and to control my every ounce of relationship to things that I was occupying myself with. Like I felt like this readiness to want to control and readiness to control, that it makes me stronger, that it makes me better, things like that. Not necessarily to be better than other people, that but that it just makes me do right things. Maybe we could put it like that. And it was wrong. It's like um life is not that simple. You can't have a key just like that, that you think, well, I just have to do everything in the way that I account for as many things as I see, and this is the ultimate solution to life. And as math would be part of life, that would be also ultimate solution to math. And I don't mean math as a subject, not an ultimate solution to a subject, but an ultimate solution to an occupation with math. And I was wrong. I had to be more easygoing, and I rejected that possibility completely because I thought I'll do it my way until the universe collapses. I don't know. I'll do it my way and I will get it my way. And turned out I was completely wrong in many regards. In similar regards, that was just one aspect, right? And it was like such I don't know, such, you could say, things created artificially in my consciousness that I was convinced about, and about which I was convinced that they have to govern my relationship to mathematics. And in many, many regards, I was wrong. And I'm still struggling to overcome some of those, to like become more flexible, less rigid in my own assumptions about how I should tackle things. Generally, it's really it's a lot of levels, but especially in maths, because that is the thing that preoccupies me generally. Yeah, and it kind of took from me for a long time the possibility to appreciate what is actually going on. What is actually going on with maths and me in maths separately from me and things like that. I was too immersed in the subject, too diligently immersed into the subject to actually notice on like a lighter, a more superficial level, but also more natural level to notice what is actually going on. I tried to verify every single point without, I tried, and it was just too much because like no one actually does that. Just to verify every transition from every sign to every, no one does that. I mean, I don't mean science like plus and minus. I mean like mathematical science. You can see it in my video a little bit displayed because I'm still like that, but it doesn't chain me anymore. I got over it in that regard. That it's not my chains anymore. I can see the horizons of what is happening freely, but it took a lot of time to get there. And so you see, because I also have such problems, I can never clearly distinguish between me being too dumb and me being just too unnatural for activities in everything that was created by minds not similar to my own. I mean, in this regards of me creating some artificial things which I believe in firmly, sometimes even subconsciously, and that I let govern my life or my relationships to things. It's like, yeah, I'm inventing some illusions of how my inner life or my relationships to things should be in accordance to some, I don't know, something that I see as a higher rule, which I also invented myself, and things like that. And often it is just harmful to me. Yeah, so I can't really know if I'm too dumb or if I'm on the contrary too. On the contrary, what do I mean by on the contrary? Or if I'm on the contrary too persuasive in how I try to make use of my intelligence. It doesn't mean intelligent. It is on the contrary only in one aspect. But there is a little thing about that. Intelligent and non-intelligent, there is, like, you could like say there are such marks, they can be given in some reasonable way, yes. But on the other hand, there is another truth that might contradict it, But this truth is also truth to some part. This is the following truth. Um, the end result is more determined not by how it is, but by how we react to our own actions. Also to other things, but especially to our own actions, because when there is another thing, there is an action on our part, and then the reaction to our action. And how we shape ourselves and what we become is the result of actually almost exclusively our reactions to our actions. Because if we can't react to our actions, then we are dead, right? Of course, it's not trying to say that everything is possible or things like that. I'm not talking about that. I have my very own views about that. That can contradict. One view can contradict my other view again, of course. But I'm just trying to say this kind of readiness for persuasiveness and use of own intelligence. You could, maybe with some bias, like I have it, conceive it as intelligence. But I don't care. I don't care if I perceive myself as intelligent or as dumb, because here's another thing. You see, for example, if you take any occupation, for example, maths, what actually matters if in such situations in your life when something important depends on it, you can solve the problems posed before you. This is the only thing that matters about your occupation. What you know, what you look up, how much you have in your mind, how much you have to look up. If you can solve those problems posed in those particular situations, you're fine. If you go through all your life and you always can do that, you are fine already, right? So it is really a relative thing. There is no absoluteness in it. We create such absolutes like education went like that or like that because it gives some kind of orientation for how the relative thing is likely to go. But the thing is that there are so many internal factors in us. Like we could be influenced by the weather, we could be influenced by our mood, we could be influenced by in maths, particularly that we don't have some prerequisites to solve something. And we just don't have those prerequisites because, no one taught us that little thing. Maybe in our lectures, exactly that little thing was missing. Though we had lectures on the subject. And then you really can't solve it. So, I mean, can't solve it in reasonable time. So there are some proofs where a little thing is missing and the proof would be much more abundant. Of course, not in simple stuff that we touched, but more general stuff. The proof would be much more abundant. We see again relativeness, much more abundant. Every mathematical proof, actually, theoretically, could be done by any person immediately, even like millennium conjectures that have been proved, Hilbert conjectures, everything like that could be done theoretically by any person if it is even doable, because we have this set of axioms. So we have this set of axioms, and from them everything is derivable what has been derived. So you can sit down and derive theoretically. In truth, that is of course relative, because it's just that you won't be able to come up with such things in a lifetime. Of course, if you had an eternity of time, then it is very reasonable that you could derive anything. But it's just that our life limitations collide with the theoretical assessments. The theoretical assessment is, of course, well, if there is a machine with infinite amount of time, then it could just try out all the mathematical symbols that we use, and it would, well, we could think that it is not necessarily, I mean, the monkey typing on a typewriter would not necessarily write anything. It is just there's a probability of that. But okay, eternal time, it is even not clear what it is. But okay, we could think, well, uh, we could just write down theoretically the probability is not zero that we would write down a sequence that is proof. Or we could say on the contrary mathematically it is zero because it's a finite sequence in an infinite. Yeah. You could see that in different terms, but the truth is, in what I'm saying is some truth. And this is the point. You see, this is incoming into the thing that we are discussing. And that is why there is too much relativeness, too much relatedness to two different things, for which we can't account it's specific things like our subjective estimates, like, oh, I'm good, I'm bad. No, you are not good, you are not bad. Just relate to your actions and do based on your actions what you can do. The actions, of course, like you can be and you should be also subjectively reasonable, but there's also this part of it, that everything is relative and undetermined. Not everything, but there is also this part of the truth, and that makes this everything not everything anymore. But that's how I phrase it. The part of it is everything is relative and undetermined, but it is only the part of the truth, and hence everything is already relativized, even though I phrased it in this phrase, but this phrase is only part. That's why it works. Okay. So, and that's what I like to talk about, or what I liked to talk about first. Mm, that is, yeah, my experiences within and with mathematics. It's like I said, I never knew if I'm too dumb or if I'm just too special in my thinking. I also noticed sometimes that it's exactly my thinking that allows me to discover inconsistencies in others' reasoning. So such inconsistencies that I then have to correct to provide my own proofs, for example, because some definitions are actually just not working by closer look. It happens rather seldom, but it happens. Yeah, yeah, my path within mathematics before I started, like before I established my own work properly concerning the internal and external. So the things that prevented me from becoming a mathematician inside and things that were more down to earth. Um, it has been a long time. Like in my bachelor, I think I was constantly struggling with, yeah, with my internal misconceptions of how I should go about doing maths. And now I think I'm finally starting to get it. Like that, everything is not that solid. As I told you, it's really relative, and it's important, at least to me, at least for a person like me, it's important to be aware of this relativity of things that is really present on this level everywhere. Right. And this basic principle that what matters is how we react to our actions. This is really a great discovery that helped me along in a lot of instances, and this generally helped me uh, I don't know, to find my own place in my own life, because it hasn't been easy in that regard. It was always really difficult for me, and it stays kind of really difficult for me to find my own place in my own life. And I mean it, in my own life, not somehow in the world, of course, but exactly in my own life, so within myself. It's been very difficult because there were so many things that I had to reconcile, just too many things. Yeah, but it became more and more a run. I mean, a run when everything runs smoothly. Like I'm still having some certain, let's call it, insufficiencies compared to what I'd like to become, but it's increasing at its climbing heights. I would say I'm a slow learner concerning the internal things. I take time to really understand how things work for me. But after I got it, I become very fluent, no matter what kind of occupation or what kind of area it is. And I thought that it was that particular feature was also somehow unique to me, but then I understood that it's actually pretty human. There are, of course, people who are just overachievers who just take everything as an easy thing because they have the ability. But um, there are rare. So most people, and even in life, those people who really have just a lot of capabilities, a lot of talents in life, those people, they have such human moments when they just struggle somewhere, and that's completely normal. Because for a long time, for me, for example, to struggle in math somewhere, even though I struggled like at some places and everything else I got, to struggle somewhere was just unacceptable. I thought it's crisis. It can't be that I'm not getting something. It it isn't allowed to be. That is, I'm a bad mathematician. As soon as there is something that I'm not getting immediately, like actually immediately, then it's bad. And of course, it was very difficult to like reasonably read papers with this attitude. I was kind of overcoming myself, and I mean myself, my own difficulties to allow myself to let something be for a moment because I have to take the whole picture in to establish connections. That this actually the other point, like how mathematicians write their articles. Well, in the later videos of my basics of university maths, you can already see it's somehow like mostly mathematicians only care about writing it down how they see it, of course, concisely, rigorously, but concisely and rigorously in the sense that when you are within the subject matter, when you are immersed in it, then, of course, it's concise and rigorous. But some little assumptions, some little steps, I don't mean like assumptions like if you leave them, then it becomes somehow invalid. No, no, I don't mean that. I mean like thinking assumptions or some little terms, they're just left out because to the person who writes it, it is completely clear. And in that regard, mathematicians, including me, are very, very selfish because we actually, in the end, only care that we understand that. This like subconscious thing that we understand what we write and we conceive it as perfectly understandable. And if we conceive it as perfectly understandable, well, then any person who would want to read it should understand that because no, it's perfectly understandable to us. So how come it is not understandable to every person? And so knowing now that mathematicians are all no, almost all like that, and having that me, those internal problems colliding with it, I understood that there is just a lot of luggage that I'm carrying with me that can be a good thing when it is used reasonably. But when it is used unreasonably, when it is controlling my subconscious, and this collision happens and just throws me off mentally without me knowing what's going on, well, that was kind of not necessarily that satisfying experience of a roller coaster, right? And yeah, then I just I just forced myself to calm down. Like I found methods how to trick myself into calming down, how to let myself live things be. Even now, it's very difficult for me if I'm not getting something immediately. Yeah, there are other problems like I'm dumb in some regards. I would regard it as dumb. I'm forgetful. I'm forgetful. But again, if you look at the history, then forgetfulness is just normal, also among mathematicians, because it's like it's not about that. It's about the essence of you dealing with mathematics, or about the essence of you coming up with things and things like that. And also thought things like it's hard for me to come up with things. But then I read some books of mathematicians and I saw that a lot of it is actually just readiness to invest into its own mind. So it is not like you sit down and you immediately come up with something amazing. Of course, there are people like that, but not everyone has to be like that. If you have this aptitude, it doesn't mean that you sit down and see through every mathematical problem immediately. Not at all. It doesn't mean that like that at all. That's the other thing. You have to react to your actions. You see a problem, and you react to how you react to seeing it. Maybe you like become upset that you don't see immediately how to go about it. But then you react to this your action and you say, I'm becoming upset. Or if you want to do it consciously, then I'm becoming upset. So I shouldn't let it get to me and things like that. Reaction to your own actions at every layer, because it could be now inductivized, right? Reaction to your own action that is a reaction to an action, and so on. And it's also temporal, like you react to your own action, and that is the action is an action itself, and then another time period begins, and you react to this reaction that is action. So one part inductivization, another part that it is temporal, that it is within the time frame. So there are a lot of things that could be thought of in totally different ways. There are ways to think of them productively in sense of indulging on inner worries and needs. I mean, not psychological needs, like what I talked about. Yeah, and it was eluding me. I thought like I just have to be strong. I just have to be strong to conquer everything. That I can like do 8 hours of math a day because I enjoy doing math. Like I really enjoy it, but it's like yeah, some videos kind of opened for me, opened my eyes that it is normal that even though I enjoy doing math, it does not have to mean that my brain is always coming along, that my body always coming along. So they just need a break because it's math is even in the moments when you like really enjoy it, when you feel this passion, it is nonetheless a struggle. It is this informal stuff, when you are formalizing stuff, it is a struggle. A lot of it is a struggle. So you have then to find fulfillment in the struggle. And since it is a struggle, no matter how much it fulfills you, your body just feels it, and your mind, your consciousness feels it, and it takes energy from you. So it's just biology, if you like. And it can't keep it up for like 16 hours a day. It just can't. Even if you go internally all for it, if you wanted it very much consciously, it's like it just doesn't work. And it was like revelation to me, even though it's completely obvious if you start to think about it. But that's another thing. Often we just don't start to think about things, or we don't start to think about things in certain ways. And that's why it eludes us. It's not that it is not trivial. It is trivial, but we don't start to think in that way or about that thing. But actually, it is trivial. When you see it, it is trivial, and you see that it is structurally trivial. So in embedding of your life, it is trivial. But if you just don't start to think about it, yeah, you don't come up with it. And it concerns a lot of things, like for example, also in science or something, and all human discovery, someone came up with it, someone didn't came up with it. Also, not only in mathematics and different things, it's like same thing dispersed over all the humanity and maybe over all the history of humanity. Like um it's just that one person, if we take just one person, then it's like probabilistically impossible, or well, if we take temporal limits, it's impossible that this person in every second will come up with everything, seeing everything. That is just that the system of all humans as a historical entity is much more complex, and the system of own life is much more complex than a particular moment of life. So there's a lot of different moods within a life, even by viewing different things, maybe every day, different uh, with different angles, things like that, you know. And just the higher complexity of the system already gives different views that you can't expect to be deriving just in this second. And this is also normal. So not coming up with things can just mean that you are not starting to think about that in that moment. And it's normal because it is probabilistically, it must be the case. I mean, yeah, you could say probabilistically. It must be the case that you won't come up with some things because you couldn't come up with all the thousands things at once looking at something. And so if you're thinking about a proof, or if you're thinking about how to reconcile some things in other nature sciences, I don't know, then not coming up with things is completely normal. It must be that you will not come up with all things. You will only come up with some things. And it is good if those things actually, most of the time, lead you somewhere. And this is completely normal. It was not clear to me. I just felt I have to do everything. No, I felt I should be able to do everything. Not just that I have to do everything, but I should be able to. I felt like that. Like, why not? Also, I didn't come up with those other thoughts that actually, in the realm of life, it is very unreasonable to think in that way. It didn't even come to me to start to think in that way, that that's somehow unreasonable. It had to be like that for me. Yeah. Um, it helped me a lot to start making those YouTube videos. Sometimes you get this grounding, you get from your high horse back to earth exactly when you just see what you can. Because, like, I didn't have a certain notion anymore about what I can do generally in maths, no matter on what level. But now I saw that those elementary levels I really can, and it's kind of put me into perspective. It put my mind into perspective, and it let it think about real things. So it kind of made me link what I can is real, and from that the link to reality came, or to more reality, because I'm still having some very realistic conceptions, but because some reality came into it thanks to that. So it really helped me to ground myself. And I became also more reasonable about reading articles, reading books. I finally can read multiple mathematical books at once, multiple articles at once. They do not have, I still have that feeling sometimes, but I do not have to be devastated by this feeling anymore. I really can get away from this feeling that I kind of not getting something. Yes, okay, I'm not getting something. I can leave that. Or if I invested a lot of time into something and I'm still not getting it, yes, okay, I leave it. Because I know, and that is also another thing that I experienced already multiple times, that in reality, when I was forced to leave something because there was just no other way at all, then at some day it just came to me like it was there. And maybe my subconscious did some work, and it happened a lot of times. So I kind of know that not getting something, and you talked about it a little in another context, not getting something is just a particular moment of time, moment of situation, moment of interrelations of things in the world, including yourself in this very moment. It doesn't mean anything but that. And you can't really extrapolate that because there are too many factors, too many variables that could get other values. And they do. If you are like in a continuous pursuit of some things, or maybe in multiple continuous pursuits, then those variables will get other values. Okay, I'm not talking about extreme cases. There might be, for example, people who just have mental problems in a way that they just can't get some things generally. Maybe it is also applicable to every person. Um, but I'm not taking the. I mean, also applicable to every person, but I'm not talking about that. Maybe for every person, there are things that the person just can't get. I don't know. But I'm not talking about extreme case. I'm just talking about a case of a more or less normal human. Even about my case, because in my opinion, I don't know. At least in the end results concerning the beginning of my path, I believe I was below the average in thinking because no matter what internal struggles made me like be especially behaving in cases of mental challenges, the end result was kind of that I was below average intellectually. Now I don't think I am, at least in some particular fields. I probably am not below average anymore, whatever the average is. That average is also such a thing that that you can't reasonably talk about. Well, that's another topic. That there are reasons to think that average is such a thing that you can't reasonably talk about. So I think now I'm not anymore, and this is this. This also has shown me that there are such what I was talking about. There are such things that just change if you pursue them, and it was my great aspiration to really do maths and feel maths to transpire it. And I kind of knew that it is possible for me. But back then, if a reasonable person would have looked at what they had in front of him, I mean, in front of him concerning their internal relationship to what they were doing and how successful they were, we would have said probably without thinking about it too much, it's just I can't do that. It's too hard, I guess, because looking back, it was probably really unreasonable. But yeah, already there, I caught such, let's call it, glimpses of structure. My life is generally followed by this. I'm haunted by this ghost of structure. I have to, I don't even know what to call it, to seek structures in everything, structures in structures, whatever. And this ghost, it looked right up to me, even though I was not able at all in the beginning to do maths, I think. Oh, actually, well, concerning results, I know. It kind of looked into me as clearly as never before. From this, it was this feeling, this atmosphere that there it is, exactly there, and it captivated me from inside, and I went along with it. And I felt like I can't do that, even though it was completely unreasonable. This ghost was just leading me. And yeah, now seeing where I am and comparing myself to other people whom I hear talk about maths and reading some mathematical papers and books, and people talk about maths and other topic, books and papers, I mean really papers in pure mathematics, really. I just, let's say I'm always starting to get it, but with always starting to get, and suddenly I look back and see that I'm already on a level that uh, that I just wasn't back then. I was a different person mentally. I was on another level, and it happened already multiple times. Of course, I'm not anywhere near uh, in some things, actually not anywhere near the level that would be, in my opinion, adequate. But on the other hand, I'm looking at what other people are doing and how they are coming up with ideas and with what ideas they are coming up. And I'm feeling that the process really started. The process of me becoming able, becoming really able to do those things. Yeah, and I'm calling it a process, but it is more like something super temporal. It's not within time. It's more like, I cannot describe that. It's like a process, meaning that there is there are different states. Let's call it like that, but not necessarily in time, but in some more abstract sense. Yeah, I'm feeling that um, I'm becoming a mathematician, even though okay, I have to state it clearly because I'd like to. I have struggles, like big struggles in things where I think one shouldn't struggle. But on the other hand, I'm now aware of how many peculiarities I have within me that made myself seem dumb to me, but now being able to follow them through, being able to see what exactly is happening, I'm beginning to understand that the truth might be different. And actually, if we extrapolate it, and maybe this extrapolation is not wrong at all, this is, by the way, one of the scopes of my, let's go with layman theories. Um, about, I didn't even know about what, about everything. That it is like that by every human, only that I'm now a specialist in self study. And if another human would look into them that intently and for a long, long time, like I did, they would find their own ways and their own weaknesses. Almost everyone in almost every area, they would find their ways. But so that they have to know how they tick. They have to know how they can enable the abilities that seem missing in them and things like that. It is possible. I claim that it is possible. Okay, that's one of my layman theories. And they are different. I have different explanations for that, that it must be possible. Okay, so it might be that every human is just a completely different world in this regard where all potential possibilities are actually included. And I don't mean it necessarily plainly esoterically. I mean it really quite directly. It's just that we are not really pursuing the subject of true self-discovery. We're pursuing it in very superficial, plain terms that in the all that simply try to mm, generalize personal aspects, but that's not right. You can't you can't generalize humans. That's the error. That's the misconception that would only work, and this is why they are not getting anywhere. This is why they are not getting anywhere. They talk about fixed intelligence and like things like that, right? Fixed IQ and things like that. They are not getting anywhere because every person would have their own personal set of key realizations, of internal key tools, of internal keys of how the person can get themselves to get done something, even what overwhelms the person, and things like that. Of course, someone might come and say, oh, but if someone is physically built like that, and they will be like, I don't know, very skinny or something like that, it will be never be an athlete if they don't use substances and things like that. Well, I agree with that, but there's also truth in the other part that I'm talking about. So it's somewhere in the middle. The total truth is somewhere in the middle. So what I'm trying to say, I don't think that what I'm talking about is not working at all. I don't know to what extent is this working, but that it is working, I am confident 100%. Like those frames which people created for things and people themselves, it just don't work. That's not the whole truth, because our language and things like that, our flow of thoughts, it's actually concerning nature. It's arbitrary. It's arbitrarily historically established restrictions of things to certain terms, to certain meanings that just historically, well, in the very beginning helped us survive, and oh, they could have developed in a completely different way, just like this talk. The human history concerning what humanity produced in their minds could have taken completely different shape. And in the beginning, that took the shape that it took because it was immediately helpful for surviving, right? And then in the subsequent, it was even complete coincidences. For example, like science, how science developed. Well, some things, I don't know, some chemical polymers, for example, but there are lots more examples that they were just discovered by mistake. And also, same in metal things, like the words, the totality of words with which we came up. Of course, with some of them, we would came up in the most number of scenarios. Of course, I'm not talking about that, but the totality of these words, we could have in our languages completely different words that do not exist in any human language now at all, and we might have described things with which we would have started new science branches and things like that. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you are getting the idea, right? So it's very arbitrary. So our descriptions for the world in terms of sciences, in terms of thinking, it is arbitrary in its very basic ground. There is not only arbitrariness, of course, as I told you, there are higher probabilities that we would, for example, anyway have a word for human or whatever. So there is also some determinism in it. But there's also a level of arbitrariness. And this level of arbitrariness that pierces our fabric of thinking and of relations to the world in every fiber. Maybe just a little, but it does it in every fiber, on every structural level at all. Where we have not defined everything, but even in maths, you can see this glimpse of the reflection of this. We have seen that in my videos a little bit where I talked about that some things are just done. Right. And if you get axiomatic foundations, well, those axiomatic foundations, they are there and they are used in some ways, but they are themselves, they have to be defined actually, and they are defined in human conceptions. So you see, even in mathematics, but generally in the world, absolutely everywhere is this arbitrariness. in our life, in our thinking, in our fabric of perception of existence everywhere, and totally in the real world itself, because we have the quantum effects. This arbitrariness, or at least according to the modern picture of the quantum world, this everywhere in the reality, this arbitrariness, and we will discover that there is still some patterns that are deterministic in some sense, who knows? But yeah, this allows me to give my thoughts some justification. Of course, you might say, well, with that one could justify anything because anything could be. Well, for me, also my life experience kind of confirms what I'm talking about. So I'm pretty confident that it might not work for any human, but for me it works. And for me it works like with tangible results. So it might not work for every human, I want to say. Yeah, and this is just what it looks like. And I didn't get it fully for a long time. Like I did get it in theory, of course. There's also a big prehistory of my, let's say, more normal life. I won't get into the detail. There is a big prehistory of some, let's call it adventures. And in those adventures, I already got the theoretical idea of that, but to really grasp those arbitrariness with really fibers of my being, that took time. And I'm maybe also yet only uncovering it. It's only the very beginning. It's only glimpses. Yeah, but in context of mathematics, to like really relate inwardly to this arbitrariness, this has helped me a lot. This relaxed me a lot because I kind of got it that it is that nothing is set in stone, really. Everything is relative. Not just in Einstein's sense, but really in a very in sense that relativity itself is relative in every level of structure that we could think of is relative, and every ounce of our thinking is itself relative, and all the basics of it are relative, and the way how we come up with those basics and the way to think about all of this we might talk now, it is all relative, and this kind of gives a sense of calm. And recently I've been able to start to adapt it to weave it into my life. Yes, but it is difficult because humans are still biological beings, right? And even such great realizations, they don't make it inexistent that we are just biological reactions. That if you feel somehow, then even though you might somehow be able to cause internal reactions that kind of can control your feelings. If you have a headache, it's oh, this does not mean that you get rid of this headache. And if you have a headache because of mathematics for now, then you just have this headache. And this can even be if mathematics is fun for you because you just get the headache because you have overexerted yourself. So it is all normal. I needed really time to understand that. All right. Mathematics itself is a subject about which I think I could talk hours, even if we take it wholly by itself, if we don't even go into any detail, if we don't go into mathematics into the inner interrelationships of objects within mathematics. We could just talk about it abstractly for hours and hours, maybe infinitely long. You see, I came to see so much within mathematics as the essence of its being. It's not just about the object that exists within it. It's not about the interrelationships, or not just because it's all thanks to them, but it is by itself a huge miracle. And maybe if I got in touch with something else on the same level, let's say, I would have gotten same magnificent picture of that stuff, because I'm kind of having an aptitude for seeing magnificent pictures everywhere. some some episodes hint to that. Yeah, but yeah, it's like I don't think there would be a discipline that would have gotten me to be concerned about it on that level, because like this knowledge that actually mathematics in total theoretically must always make your effort pay off in a very abstract sense. I don't mean some achievements, I don't mean anything like that. I mean really dealing with mathematics and like rotating within it. I don't mean any structures of people concerning. No, I just mean mathematics and a person. That the effort really must pay off in a very abstract sense, and that theoretically you can get anywhere in very, very small steps. So theoretically, you could really get anywhere in mathematics. It is different in other subjects that I have seen. For example, in physics, it's just that there is some kind of uh, thinking that you have to agree with. You have to internalize it, and you have to have an inner agreement with it. I don't mean an internal aptitude, but I mean you have to submit to it. Let's put it like that. In mathematics, there is that, like, there is some codes of thinking, but at the same time, there is also a system that is just by itself. And this system by itself, theoretically, it could be discovered by itself. There would be no need at all for anything at all than a person with a pen and paper, and this person could discover all of mathematics and more than all humans ever have discovered in mathematics, and could discover it infinitely more. And that there is really that this kind of not in vainness. What you invest in mathematics in a very abstract sense, it can't be in vain. And at the same time, the hardness of the challenge, the hardness of the way on which the doors of this world will open for you, that got me to deal with mathematics and to immerse myself into mathematics and to do for it things like I never did for anything. Because there was really a structure in this world that, on one hand, um, certainly was by itself, its existence was not in vain, because its existence, how should I put it? because as what it presented itself, as what it presented itself confirmed the right of its existence. And I'm talking about this, what I called non-invasiveness at our point. Of course, non-invasiveness also would have our um, our connotations, but yeah, I'm just trying to name something that doesn't have a name. This is mathematicsness. I don't have another name for it because there is nothing like that. There are no things like that. By the way, here a little side way that we have to take. The thing is, what is actually mathematics? We call a lot of things mathematics, and we could have very different definitions of mathematics, but a very general name for what encompasses mathematics as an informational structure. All mathematics could be characterized as just, um, if you only talk at informational structure, not on ways of thinking, so not on mathematics as a way of doing something, but in mathematics as some entity that is just there and that is restricted to what humans have discovered. And it is just a collection of thinking techniques that exhibit certain very special attributes. But what attributes, if you are very honest, absolutely honest, then you can't just characterize all those attributes so that it perfectly fits what mathematics is, so that all techniques are described by that. You can't do that. But we certainly see that it is a collection of thinking techniques with certain special attributes. Maybe we can't name that, but this definition fits. Yeah. So I think it couldn't have been anything but mathematics that would have gotten myself that far that I would like be that willing to invest myself into it. Nothing else would have done it. And that I had hard time to get anywhere, it has only increased that. Nothing else would have provided that. There's no system in this world that is as just as having exactly those attributes that would have gotten me to do that as mathematics. And nothing else would have been sufficient. It is just like that. Of course, what I'm immediately thinking of is also philosophy. But the thing is, they are similar. They are very similar. But the thing is, like, in philosophy, you don't have that frame that is behind everything and whose glimpses you really can see, and that is self-sufficient and that is completed. Yes, that's the word. In mathematics, you constantly have this feeling that everything is completed. Even if you don't know about it, you have this feeling that you are dealing with a world that is justifying its own existence. In philosophy, you have uh, a wide field where you can go in every direction, but nothing about this field in itself is actually known. Let's talk about it, for example, in this way, is actually known in a way that it justifies its own existence. No, it's much more unclear. If philosophy is, okay, I could put many words to finish the sentence. If philosophy is self-sufficient, if philosophy is completed in any sense, if it could be completed in any sense. But in mathematics, even though it is infinitely developable, that maybe there shouldn't be any doubt that it is infinitely developable. Well, but there is also this feeling that somewhere in some maybe different worlds, in the perception of a completely different being that we fantasize a little on a different planet, or somewhere in mind of God, mathematics has a complete fashion, and everything that we derive is derived from this complete fashion. And this kind of supreme entity that is so powerful in its structural relationships, but that has this um, omni-structural core that encompasses all of it in the best way possible. So this infinity brought to a point, to a single point, and this infinity in a very, very broad sense, infinity of infinity, you can't even describe what mathematical infinity, not meaning mathematical term infinity, but what this infinity of mathematics actually is, you can't even describe it. And that you have constantly this feeling that somewhere, maybe in mind of God, this infinity is encompassed as one single dot, as something completely perfect, and nonetheless enjoying all this structural complexity. And in philosophy, you don't have that, you have everything, you have this wide field that is in ways of how you can do that. You could comprise, of course, mathematics as part of philosophy. There's, I would not object to that at all. So much broader, maybe the broadest thing ever, because philosophy, you could actually say, well, philosophy is thinking, because probably you recall that I think, therefore I am. You need not, if you go into to the antique times, back to the antique times, then this quote would have been regarded differently. It is not about that thinking proves existence. It is about that only thinking, and thinking means, of course, philosophical thinking, is existence. It has been regarded like that, that only philosophers really exist in the antique Greece. Yes, so philosophy is much broader, but there's also this absolute uncertainty because it's the broadest thing ever, and the broadest thing ever has to have uncertain bounds, uncertain frame, uncertain being, uncertain essence, because the broadest thing ever is uncertain by definition. If there would be absolute certainty, it could not include uncertainty. Right? And since it includes the philosophy includes everything, but mathematics it is very very large and infinitely large, infinitely broad, but it is also perfect. It is perfect in every regard. Not in our minds, of course. Our minds are very limited. We can't even we even consider the very few of the functions really consider like study explicitly. Like to take an example, we consider very very few functions, very very few maps for that matter. I meant now functions from Rio Studios, and we think like other functions are not interesting. They don't exhibit properties like we know, like I don't know, differentiability, continuity, integrability, and things like that. But we haven't come up with terms that describe their special structure. Maybe for each function, it's a special structure. I mean, special structure with wealth of structure inside. But we are very limited beings. Right? So our mathematics, our mind is absolutely limited. We limit it to the things. Actually, what we are doing in mathematics is basically what we can do. It's the only thing that we are doing. I mean, not just, of course, the only thing that if we couldn't do something, of course, we wouldn't do that. But I mean, there's a lot more. There is what the part of mathematics that we are doing, that we humans are able to be doing, is so diminishingly small compared to what is in there. But yeah, somewhere there is always this feeling that mathematics in itself enjoys this perfection. And this is the most perfect thing in every word that could ever exist in structure sense. There's no more perfect structural thing than mathematics. Even if humans are doing mathematics wrong, they are catching glimpses. We are catching glimpses of that absolute perfection. And this, that there is something like that. This was for me a motivation, like internal motivation that I'm yet now realizing what really drove me, really realize it now in conscious thoughts. This is what drove me. Uh, and philosophy is for other people, it is for really people who are pioneers. And I mean like really pioneers in the absolute general sense that just go and open a completely new thing. Of course, philosophy is based on what has been already that is actually the one of the most important features in philosophy that is based on what has been already discovered. But when, for example, starting a new branch, it is different. And in mathematics, you have this something holding you, something like supporting you from behind, always. If even if you don't know yet how to get this support from mathematics itself, it is there. It is always there. This invisible hand. You could say God. It is, yeah, mental God. This is a different thing. And in philosophy, you are on your own. You are on your own, absolutely. There are no limits, there are no restrictions, there's nothing. Of course, you could say, well, philosophy is written in the language of logic, but in human terms, you could say philosophy has no limits whatsoever. In no way ever. Because you could even conceive what I'm talking about, of course, really informally, but the topics that I'm touching, you could conceive that as philosophy. So really, I don't mean just in that, oh, we could call it philosophy using this word of human. No, no, no. I mean the essence of meaning of philosophy. Of course, not exactly my speech, but the topics that I'm touching and the interconnections of the conceivable interconnections of things that I'm touching. And all mathematics, as I said, of course. So philosophy is too large to be able to be perfect. And you can also see that, like, you can see this total diversity and no unifying core. You can see it very clearly when you read philosophical works that really everyone do their own thing. In mathematics, everyone do their own thing to a great extent, but nonetheless there's this unifying core. And even in our very limited human mathematics, there is unifying core. And this is great. This is the utmost sense of perfection of structure. I'm not talking about perfection per se. What is perfection per se? You know. But perfection of structure. Perfection of structure, that is mathematics. That is exactly mathematics. Yeah, and this thing, yeah, like that uh, got to me. Got to me that I had to be like, to have it as part of me and to be a part of it. Yeah, so if I would have taken any other occupation, I don't know if it would ever be anything like it. Like, even though I'm not yet able at all to fully appreciate the mathematics, like the mathematics when I look into it up close, I'm pretty humble in my estimates of my abilities in mathematics within the mathematics itself. Even though I'm not able yet, I'm anticipating what it really is. And I know that eventually I will get there. Maybe not to the level of many, many people. There are many people, maybe almost all people in mathematics are better than me. Maybe, no, I don't know. I think that is actually likely. Yeah, but maybe I should not think like that. I don't know. It's just what's coming to my mind. Yeah, but nonetheless, even though it's a very familiar and calling thing for me, the only thing in the world for which I feel it actually, I don't feel it for anything in life like mathematics. Even though I'm maybe on the lowest level among people who are in mathematics, maybe even below the lowest level. I don't know because I'm aware of my limitations, of my current limitations, because the I expect. But nonetheless, like, and yeah, I'm also got uncertain about my limitations when I just saw what people think, how we think, how we get ideas, what ideas they get, and things like that. So I'm not certain, but okay, let's just say, well, could be, because I totally concede that that could be that I'm below the lowest level of that currently. Oh yeah, something in me doesn't want to accept that. It's to say that it is not true. Okay, maybe it's not true. I don't know. Yeah, but nonetheless, even if it would be like that, my love for mathematics, this kind of stupid love, you could say, this would not change because it's just, yeah, uh, this being, this essence is perfection pure, and perfection of structure, and I'm all about structures. So, well, like, not necessarily consciously, but subconsciously. Like, I'm observing myself, and I know that I'm all about structures, even though it might not seem that. Um, but this is really when I'm just left with myself, then I often observe such instances where I understand that the phrase "I'm all about structures" has to have a lot of truth in it when applied. Yeah, yeah. And currently, I'm dealing with a very interesting topic: statistical mechanics, but actually the mathematical part of it. So nothing with physics or something, but really the mathematical part of it. And it was hard in the beginning. And I also always have this like entry threshold. It's like it's difficult for me to get me do something. Mathematics succeeds at getting me do something the best, but even mathematics has problems with getting me do something. I just have that. And I'm trying. I'm really trying. I'm really trying my hardest, my best to overcome that. It's consciously I said. I would love to invest 8 hours a day in mathematics. I would love that idea, and I'm trying to overcome myself in every little thing to really realize, let's say, what I would call a proper life that I'm not ashamed of before myself, not actually before others, so maybe not anymore. But it's just, it's hard. It's hard to fight myself. It's insanely hard. I'm not complaining because everyone have their own hard things, and it is actually blasphemy to complain about that because there are people who are living through real hardships. I don't mean it like that, but like, yeah, it's just hard, objectively. It's hard in the sense that it is, oh, that even though I'm investing really, I'm trying to invest myself really hard into it every moment, basically, or that. at many moments of life, at many moments of every of my days. But it's just that it's hard to get me do something. Generally, when mathematics succeeds at that best, and I'm happy about that. That I found such a thing. Yeah. So, and yeah, I find it very funny that I love to do that. I really love to. But it's like yeah, my body does not proof of the idea of doing mathematics 8 hours a day. Yeah, but there was a really helpful video. I think I also had a link in one of my videos that actually to do mathematics only like 2 or 4 hours a day is also okay. But okay, it's not about the number of hours. It's just that I would love to do mathematics constantly actually, but yeah. I mean, I would love that somehow in my consciousness, but there are other things than consciousness, than immediate consciousness. Yeah, unfortunately. Hmm. So, I think even though I might have not touched all the topics that I would have liked to have touched, I have touched quite some. Actually, I started to talk about mathematics as an entity, and this is quite interesting. But at that point, okay, I think in total, my need um, for this reflection is satisfied. So you see, this is within a larger context of the need of reflection. So talking mathematics in that context is immersed in this context. That's why. So it's more about the big context. It was more about the big context than about this particular thing. So, so I think about general stuff. I have said enough. And next up, I would actually love to make a video when I'll be making a video. I'll be making a video about cardinalities probably, because there will be actually really stuff to prove for me. I think this topic I never touched properly. I mean, really proofs in it that are of some interest. Uh, yeah. And those proofs, they will be, we can already do them. I mean, with the course Basics of University Math, I think we have all the prerequisites covered for that. But those proofs will already be in the sense of abstraction that they require, they will be quite interesting. So there will be like in the little, so to speak, real mathematics going on, not just some throwing around definitions, but really mathematics. We will have to come up with things, or I will have to come up with things they can come await this. Yeah, but on the other hand, I have also to study. So I don't know when the video will come. Well, I should on it soon, but probably not now. Okay, I think that's it for now. I don't have anything to say now. I don't have um, that need or that joy, that need that I had to satisfy, or that joy that I had doing that. Okay.